Over the last few years, a lot of people have become aware of the inequities in the criminal justice system. The fact that we spend over $80 billion a year in incarcerating people, oftentimes who've only been engaged in nonviolent drug offenses. Right now, with our overall crime rate and incarceration rate both falling, we're at a moment when some good people in both parties, Republicans and Democrats, and folks all across the country are coming together around ideas to make the system work smarter, make it work better. And I'm determined to do my part wherever I can. That's one of the reasons why I'm commuting the sentences of 46 prisoners who were convicted many years, or in some cases, decades ago. These men and women were not hardened criminals, but the overwhelming majority had been sentenced to at least 20 years. 14 of them had been sentenced to life for nonviolent drug offenses. So their punishments didn't fit the crime.
The number of incarcerations happening in America are so far off the charts that the federal government is now forced to deal with the issue. They'd like to pretend it'll go away, but nobody's going to let it go away. The numbers are outrageous when compared to any other civilized country on the planet. And so, conversations have started about the war on drugs and how the sentences for somebody with nonviolent offenses have been completely outrageous. And so there is some dialogue taking place to correct these scenarios. But just as importantly as the war on drugs is the war on dads. And here are the reasons that you will not hear the war on dads in the media. The reason is because the rabbit hole of offenses this country has committed against fathers, some mothers, but primarily fathers, the rabbit hole is atrocious in terms of living in a free country. First of all, virtually every father who is in prison at this point for back child support was at some point stripped of their constitutional rights. I'm not going to get into specific details, but either blocked from their children or blocked from a bunch of other rights that they had in order to throw these people in prison. And it is not the one or two, it is primarily most of the fathers sitting in jail cells were not given their constitutional rights. Secondly, these people that are in prison because they aren't paying child support or they have arrears, they weren't given normal trials. They were imprisoned through the family court system, which means they never had a jury. It happened behind a closed door. There's no recording of anything that ever occurred. It is just that father against a judge who decided this person should go to prison. This is not how the American system was set up. It was set up with checks and balances. There's nobody checking these judges. Point number 3, debtor's prison. Debtor's prison was outlawed eons ago. You don't throw people in prison because they owe you money. And so now we have 50,000 people in prison because they owe back child support. The Department of Justice has gone after the state courts and said, stop throwing people in prison. It's gotten that bad. They're getting warnings from the Department of Justice. And so we don't want to shine a light on this. And point 4, which is an embarrassment to our entire free society, is the fact that there are major financial incentives to strip parents of children. The state of California alone makes about $200 million a year in transactions in which children are moved between households, and in transactions where somebody has to pay somebody child support. This is a big moneymaker for the states. And the state doesn't want to lose their funding. The federal government doesn't want to stand up and say, oh, yeah, we made a mistake. We started bribing people to remove children from families. And so this war on dads, while just as significant as the war on drugs, is going to be hidden for a long time. People are not going to talk about this because nobody wants to admit the atrocities that have taken place in this country. Instead of just fessing up and fixing things, we're going to just hide it. We're going to hide the truth. We're going to hide behind the fact that these are deadbeat dads. These are fathers who don't want their children. Yeah, well, give them their children back and see how things go. Take them out of prison, give them equal access to their kids. There are deadbeat dads out there. I am not denying that there are deadbeat dads out there. They are the exception. They are not the rule. We have built a system that is set up to peg men as deadbeat dads, take their children away from them, bill them for it, and then when they don't have the money, throw them in prison. The whole system needs to be fixed. The federal government needs to come up, speak to this point, and fix it.
So their punishments didn't fit the crime.